Hi, I'm Anthony Newbold. Welcome to A Closer Look. My guest this week is the Minister responsible for the Public Service and National Insurance, the Honorable Brensil Rolle. Minister, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
That is good, because we have some exciting questions to ask you, like the charge has been that you laid off 10,000 people from the public service. What's the story?
Well, this is a real story. The story is that we did not lay off 10,000 persons in the public service. I'm sure you're aware that just before the elections, the former government engaged in several programs where they bulk up the public service. The majority of those programs were involved persons who were given contracts. These contracts varied from 3 months to 6 months. So here you are in this environment, and individuals were given contracts from January for 6 months to June. Others were given 3 months contract, March, April, May, and June. 3 or 4 months contract. What we found was that when we came to office, there were scores of individuals with these contracts. Those contracts expired. The programs that were initiated by the former government came to an end, and in many instances, we did not renew those contracts. What we kept, though, was the programs that were acceptable and that were consistent. For example, we kept everyone in their 52-week program that they were running at the time. We did not discontinue the program the way they did when they came to office in May of 2012. By June of 2012, scores of individuals were sent home and were put on the unemployment list. Our position was very clear. We wanted to engage individuals in areas that were needed in the service, and those individuals, I believe, came in with the understanding that they were contract officers and those contracts expired. In addition to that, we took a carefully considered position, which was individuals who had retired and were on contracts. We said that they could not get both. And that's the most
both meaning?
Both meaning a salary and pension. Right. We saw this as an opportunity to engage individuals in the public service, the next generation of individuals, and so we did not continue the services or continue to allow persons to be engaged in the public service with both getting a pension and a salary.
So you didn't lay off 10,000 people. Let's talk some numbers anyway.
Yes.
How many people do you have in the public service?
There are approximately 20,000 persons in the public service. 14,000 of these individuals are, generally speaking, on the permanent and pensionable establishment. The others are on contract, they work on probation, and they are on various programs in the government.
So, Minister, tell me, do you have some numbers about the appointments, re-engagements, promotions, that kind of thing that you've done?
Yes, we did a manpower audit of the public service to determine the needs and the shortfalls in the public service. We determined that our best approach was to deal firstly with the human resources side. And so we vigorously engaged and looked at those persons who needed to be promoted in the service. And so in our first year, we promoted more persons in our first year than the former government did in 5 years. And I'm not throwing flames at the former government. What I'm just saying is giving the facts that in order for the public service to be successful and to progress, we thought that our first step was to look at the human resources side, look at the element of promotion, and then after that we looked at the second element in the public service. We then determined to look at training and what were the training needs in the service so that we could build a capacity that is necessary to make the service a better place. And so those two elements, I believe we have moved to a space where we are comfortable with it now. The service is actively engaged. Promotions are coming on stream. Individuals in the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Environment are in a better space. The whole question of temporary workers, workers on probation, individuals who need some assistance and how they move through the system, I think we have that under some control at the moment.
You told me you got about 20,000 people in the public service. You did this manpower audit. You have some definitive number, approximation of the amount of people you need to really have an effective public service?
I don't have that number down, Park. What we do know now is based on our vacancies and based on what the government objective is, we want to fill the vacancies that are required, particularly those in the technical areas. We want to make the public service a better place to work. Some people say we need to bring the public service back to what it used to be so that people aspire to get into public service. That is why we took the carefully considered step to set out a program this year where we're going to hire 200 individuals who graduate from college, who have a college degree. We want to be competitive, and so what we're doing with them is we're encouraging them to come back. We're paying them a little bit more because we're putting them on a contract, and we hope that they could transition into the public service once their contract expired. But basically, we need to be competitive, and we want to
competitive with the private sector.
With the private sector and with the whole issue of getting Bahamians to come back home, because the starting salary for most in the public service is about $22,000. We've bumped that up to these contract officers for $30,000. We want to compete, and once they go through this program and once they go through a contract, we'll make a determination of how best they can transition into the service.
Okay, I want to ask you about your biggest challenge in the public service, but we got to take a break, think about it. And we'll be back with more Minister of Public Service and National Insurance, the Honorable Brensil Rolle, after this. Welcome back to the show. I'm Anthony Newbold, speaking with the Minister responsible for the public service, the Honorable Brensil Rolle. Minister, what's your biggest challenge right now in the public service, if you can pin it down?
Well, there are two problems. One is the whole question of modernization of the public service so that we can be responsive, and the Prime Minister and the government has taken the position that a modernization unit has been set up so that they can strategically look at how we could make the public service more efficient and more responsive. Secondly, the whole question of how do you attract the next generation into the public service and how do you make it better? These are the individuals who are nimble, they are quick, they engage in many activities and studies that would make the public service better. How do you get these young individuals in the public service? Considering the public service is built on a seniority-based system. So if I'm there, you're a young person, you just can't get in the system, how you can't pass
You have to get in the line.
Yes. And so we're trying to navigate those two issues to make sure we can be responsive and we could give these young persons another opportunity to come in and to share their skills. And if we don't do that, we will have some of the problems we're having now. I just mentioned to my colleague at the Ministry of Health, one of the challenges he's got is nurses, for example.
Right.
They're called from Canada and the US and the Cayman, and they're offering them an attractive package so that they could come. we must be, and we are responding in kind to individuals in this field. And so in order for us to be competitive, in order for us to deliver the service, we've got to move with the times. And so what you will hear over the next few months is how do we engage individuals, taking into account their promotion, how do we re-engineer the public service so that seniority, although it's important and although it's possible, how could that not be
The overriding
factor in
how do you move through
how
the
do you
system?
move through the system? Yes.
Let me ask you, is there a training regimen for the public service, or you just say as needed? Or is there this is training for the public service generally?
There's some general courses and training in the public service. In the Ministry of Public Service today, we have a lunch and learn training program where we encourage individuals in their lunchtime to come for an hour to go to our training sessions where we cover a variety of matters affecting the various ministries and departments. Other agencies have their own training. What we propose to do this year is a major comprehensive administrative training regimen that's going to take place beginning, I believe, in September. My permanent secretary is working on that right now. And what that will highlight is basically starting at the top. Let's make sure that the permanent secretaries and the secretaries, heads of departments, make sure they have a clear understanding of what is needed and what steps they must take as leaders to make the service better. So yes, there is a clear regimen, a clear structure for training. That's the one area in our budget that I was screaming about, that I don't think we've invested enough in the training of our individuals, because we believe that if individuals are given the opportunity to train, then they will be in a better position to offer the kinds of service that is required by the ministries and departments.
Let me go back for a minute. You mentioned the 52-week program, which has been a source of controversy ever since it was introduced. Is that now, the 52-week program, is that now embedded in the public service system? Will there always be a 52-week program?
You know, there's a shift in name. We don't call it the 52-week program anymore. It's the National Job Creation and Skills Training Program, basically. Okay. And so what the program is, and if you look at the component of the program this year, what you will see is it was an opportunity to create some jobs for unemployed persons so that they could gain some skills and some skill sets so that they would be more marketable, so that they would be more responsive in delivering services. And more importantly, we added another component to the program this year where we said to individuals, we want to put you in BTVI. We're going to pay you the same salary that we're paying everybody else, but you must go to BTVI, you must learn a skill. Here the skill set that is needed in the Bahamas. For example, in Grand Bahama, they need welders. So we said to individuals, welders for the port. And so we said to individuals, if you want to join the program, you must go to BTVI, you must get the skill set so that you could transition into the port and into the docks where they need these welders. So what we have is several individuals in New Providence and Grand Bahama in particular who went into BTVI, acquired a skill. Now they are on their own. We went further. We said that to them that the government has a program where if you want to become self-sufficient and self-employed, if you get a skill set, we will give you the funds to buy your tools to get you started. And so that program that was once only a program to create a job, we're saying, no, it's more than that now. We want to make sure that you acquire a skill so that you could go on and work and do your own thing.
That program is always subscribed, is it?
Yes, there are 1,000 individuals in the program Last year, the program is over. We are re-engineering the program. The program is going to begin again on the 8th of August, 8th of July.
The Ministry of Labor, I'm thinking that because public service, you're going to have needs. Ministry of Labor knows what's out there. I'm thinking you ought to have a really close relationship with the Ministry of Labor. Do you?
Absolutely, and that's why the program, the 52 weeks program, as you call it, is really focused on labor. And so there's always collaboration between the Ministry of Public Service and labor, because one, labor, although they have several programs to engage persons, they also know where deficiencies exist in the public service. They know that vacancies exist. So from time to time, we have regular meetings with the Ministry of Labor to find out exactly what they're finding out there. They send us on a regular basis an update on the need for jobs and skills that's out there that may be deficient or not found in the public service. So yes, we work hand in hand regularly.
And of course, your ministry is responsible for the well-being of all of the people in the public service, whether they work for health, labor, education, wherever. That's your overall job.
I always say that our job is to make sure that parity exists in the public service and to manage each ministry and department, so that if a ministry, for example, has individuals that are not fully occupied, well, we could move them or transfer them to ministries that need them. So there's a constant human resource element that is always in play. And the Ministry of Public Service, because we deal with the human side of the government, making sure their pensions are straight, their gratuities are paid, they're fit. There's an absolute fit in certain ministries. And if there needs to be disciplinary measures, make sure those things are done in a timely fashion.
We got to talk about national insurance, but we got to take another break.
Oh.
And we'll be back with more with the minister responsible for the public service after this. Welcome back to the show. I'm Anthony Newbo, speaking with the Minister responsible for the Public Service and National Insurance, the Honorable Brensil Rolle, Minister, National Insurance. We always talk about, whether it's going to last, whether it's going to collapse. What's the state of the nation's social safety net?
It is the nation's social safety net. It is driven by what you put in, your contributions. And so if you don't contribute, you can't benefit. That's the long and short of it. The actuarial report suggests that there ought to be a rate increase at National Insurance.
They've been talking about that for a while, haven't they?
We've been talking about that for a while. We're just trying to find out specifically what really needs to go into that. We have taken the position that we want to make sure that the contributions are collected. You would have heard me say earlier that a substantial amount of money is owed to National Insurance, and trying to encourage individuals to come in and make those payments.
These are big companies, these are individuals?
The number I gave was referring to big companies. $17 million owed to the board. And what is critical about that is the fact that many of the individuals who work for these companies have contributed to the companies, yes, but their payments have not been received by National Insurance. And at the end of the day, there's an expectation that their
reasonable
expectation that their benefit is secured.
You're going to prosecute these people?
Absolutely. We have some individuals before the court as you speak. It is not our desire to prosecute anyone. we'd wish that these individuals would come into national insurance and make their payments. What is even more regrettable is the fact that some individuals have come to national insurance, they've signed an agreement to pay national insurance, and they've balked on that. And so we are left to explore our only legal action, and that is to put these matters before the courts.
Tell me about this $14 million system that we've all heard about down there. How's it working now? Is it working?
It's doing much better. What the major problem, I believe, was, and as government sometimes we do this, former government determined that they wanted to show off just before an election that things were going well. They had a system. The system was not ready to go live, but they sent it live anyway. Result of that was, and National Insurance have a name for it, basically, if I say to you, the system was just spinning. So if they were writing, for example, trying to put in your contribution, the system was just spinning. There was not much results, and it created some chaos at NIB. The government took the position that we needed to address this problem, and so we seconded the person who we believe was the best person in the public service to do the job. Ms. Cawley was sent over to NIB. She was given some specific instructions by the Prime Minister. The system is more responsive now. We're getting better results, and we hope to, within the next few months, have the system operational, or alternatively, if the system cannot perform at the capacity and do exactly what we would wish it fit to do, we'll look at other options. But we are satisfied to date that we are much better off now than we were a few months ago.
You also had some union problems down there. You got that in hand?
We're talking with the union. We've been we've made several offers to the union. We believe they're a very reasonable offers. We have had some movement. Generally speaking, the union negotiators that we have hired are working hand in hand. We believe at the end of the day, though, that we've made a reasonable offer, more than reasonable offer to the union. It is certainly much better than any offer that's on the table by any other agency in the government. And we are urging them to sit back, to come to this agreement, to assist us in making NIB the best place to work in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
National Insurance also invests a lot of money in infrastructure at the urging direction
Yes.
of the government.
Yes.
The board is comfortable that money is well spent, that it's being used properly and effectively?
Well, there's been some cries on the board about, government investing funds the way it has. Governments in the past have used national insurance, like you say, to create the kind of infrastructure because they have the funds available to them to do just that. This board is made a carefully considered position that they're going to more closely examine what the government wants to do and look at its investment arm to see whether we are making the kinds of progress and the kinds of prudent investment that's necessary. And it is primarily because of the fund level of NIB. We're going to be careful that we don't go overboard and not have the ability to pay our claims and to offer the kinds of services that are necessary to keep our social security structure in place. You
have carriage of the National Prescription Drug Plan as well?
We just re-engage them. We purchase the drugs on their behalf, on the behalf of the private pharmacy, the pharmacies and the Ministry of Health, the public pharmacies and the Ministry of Health. That's costing the board approximately $16 million a year. And so we believe that if persons take their drugs, persons are on their medication, then that would reduce the potential for claims at NIB. And so we see this as a prudent investment on our behalf.
That's one of your good investments, eh?
Yes, yes.
Overall, you think your public service and national insurance portfolios are on course that you want it to be on?
I think so. I believe that National Insurance, the new director at NIB, has put forward a strategic plan that's going to elevate the services and the image of NIB. In the public service, I say to my colleagues, and I hate to repeat it, but it's true. I have the best permanent secretary in the service, and that's the right place for the best manager of the public service to be, and that is to ensure that the proper training takes place. The parity is maintained throughout the service, and someone who has the vision and the experience, of course, to manage these things to make sure everything is in place in the public service.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you for watching A Closer Look. Remember, you can also watch us on Facebook and on YouTube.
Thank you. Thank you so much.